The Okonkwo family gathered in grand style for Papa Okonkwo's 70th birthday. Relatives flew in from all over Nigeria, dressed in lace and pride. No one noticed the slim young woman moving quietly around the venue, giving instructions. That woman was Chisholm, their niece. At 28, she had vanished from their minds after her parents' tragic death years ago. She had no one, passed from one relative to another, forgotten, unseen. Many believed she was struggling in Lagos, maybe doing odd jobs. So when Mama Amaka spotted her early that morning with a clipboard, she didn't think twice. "You, fix your scarf and serve quietly when the guests come," she snapped, thinking Chisholm was part of the hired help. Chisholm didn't reply. She just nodded and walked away, her chest tight, her eyes burning with a mix of hurt and silence. She climbed the stairs to her private office above the hall. No one knew she had built the very venue they were celebrating in. No one even asked. They still saw her as the orphan girl from years ago, but today, without saying a word, Chisholm was about to show them exactly who she had become. The hall sparkled with elegance. Tall glass walls, golden lights, soft music, and a rooftop view of Lagos. Guests would never guess it was owned by someone the family barely noticed. That someone was Chisholm. After losing her parents, she had cleaned dishes, served drinks, and carried trays for years. Quietly, she saved every naira. She studied online, learned how to plan events, and found an investor who believed in her dream. With a loan and pure determination, she built the Grand Orchid, now one of the most admired venues in Lagos. She had hosted famous weddings, political events, even celebrities, but this booking came through one of her cousins. They didn't know the name Chisholm N on the contract was the same girl they once looked down on. She hadn't planned to reveal herself today. She only wanted to make sure things ran smoothly. But after Mama Amaka treated her like a common maid, something shifted in her heart. She looked around the beautiful space she created and knew this was her moment. She didn't need anyone's permission to be seen anymore. She wasn't the orphan girl they ignored. She was the woman who built the ground they were standing on. Downstairs, the Okonkwo family laughed loudly, showing off their lace gowns and foreign perfumes. The hall was full of noise, pride, and selfies. But upstairs, in a quiet VIP lounge, Chisholm sat alone, watching them through the glass. Her heart felt heavy. Memories returned. She thought of how, after her parents died, she was passed around like a burden, one house to another. Some gave her food, others gave her chores. No one gave her love. Birthdays came and went, like ordinary days. Her school fees were often unpaid. Even Abuka, her favorite cousin, stopped calling. She had learned early that if she didn't build her own path, she would always be treated like someone who didn't belong. So she worked hard. She cried alone. She fought quietly. And she rose, step by step. Now, the same family who once ignored her was eating in a hall she paid for, celebrating on a floor she laid. But still, no one noticed her. Not yet. As she sat in silence, her hands clenched gently in her lap, she told herself, they may not see her now, but before the night ends, they will never forget who she is. The hall buzzed as guests poured in, admiring the lights and decor. Chisholm moved quietly, checking every detail: sound, food, staff. Her team followed her instructions with respect, but her family, they still saw nothing. To them, she was just background. Uncle Chijioke walked up without looking twice, handed her his empty glass, and snapped, "Refill this, and be fast." A cousin nearby laughed and said, "Hope this one remembers the small chops today." Chisholm smiled gently, not a word in reply. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. Instead, she turned and walked straight into the control room. Her voice calm, she spoke into the mic. "Let's begin in 15 minutes. Light check. DJ be ready. MC to the stage." Her staff responded instantly. The shift was quiet, powerful. Suddenly her family paused, eyebrows raised, eyes followed her. "Wait, who's she talking to like that?" Someone whispered. "She acts like she owns the place," another said, half laughing. But the laughter was thinner now, unsure. Something didn't add up. This wasn't just a server. Something about the way she moved, spoke, and commanded respect. It made them uncomfortable. They didn't know it yet, but everything they assumed was about to change. The lights dimmed suddenly, music swelled through the hall, and all conversations paused. The MC stepped into the spotlight and smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand celebration of Chief Okonkwo's 70th birthday," he said with energy. This unforgettable event is brought to you in partnership with Grand Orchid Events. And tonight, we are honored to have the owner with us. The crowd murmured, confused. Please welcome the founder and heart behind this beautiful venue, Miss Chisom Nwakaego Okonkwo. The hall went silent. Then came a wave of gasps. Mama Amaka froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Ebuka choked on his wine. Uncle Chijioke stared, mouth slightly open. Slowly, Chisom appeared from the side entrance, wearing a navy blue gown that flowed like silk. Her steps were calm but full of power. Her hair, her glow, her quiet grace. Everything about her said one thing. She was no longer invisible. The servers stood in a line and clapped. The DJ turned up the music. And for the first time that night, the family saw her, truly saw her. Not as a helper, not as the orphan, but as the woman who owned the ground beneath their feet. As the music faded, Chisom stood tall, surrounded by shocked faces. Then, one by one, her relatives began rushing toward her with wide smiles and loud compliments. "Chisom, look at you! We didn't know you had such talent. This venue is stunning. You've made us proud." Suddenly, everyone who once ignored her wanted to be close. She nodded, gave soft smiles, but inside, she remembered everything. The silence when she needed help, the way they treated her like she didn't matter. Mama Amaka came next, looking unsure. "Chisom, about earlier, I didn't know it was you. You've changed so much." Chisom looked at her and answered gently, "No, I just stopped standing where you left me." Then Ebuka stepped in, trying to lighten the moment. "So, you're the big boss now, eh?" She smiled and said, "I always was. You just never looked close enough." Nervous laughter filled the air, but it couldn't hide the truth. They were embarrassed. All those years they thought she was nothing, and now she stood before them, powerful and calm. Their words sounded sweet, but they came too late. Chisom had already learned to live without their approval. She didn't need it anymore. Later that evening, after the music faded and guests relaxed, Papa Okonkwo asked someone to bring Chisom to him. He was seated quietly at a corner table, older now, his hands slower, but his eyes still full of wisdom. As she approached, he reached for her hand and held it gently. "My daughter," he said softly, "forgive us. We failed you after your parents passed. We left you out in the cold." Chisom's throat tightened. She had waited her whole life to hear someone say that. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "I didn't need money or gifts. I just wanted to be seen." Papa Okonkwo gave her hand a firm squeeze. "We see you now, and I am proud of you, not for the hall or the business, but for the fire you carried inside you, even when no one helped light it." Chisom didn't speak. She just nodded, her heart full. In that moment, the grand decorated hall disappeared. The noise, the decorations, the pride, none of it mattered. It was just her, and the one person who had once cradled her as a baby, now giving her the one thing she had needed most, acknowledgement. As the night wound down, Chisom stood silently on the balcony, watching everything below. The music played softly now. Guests danced, laughed, took photos, and enjoyed the food. Her family chatted at tables, full and happy, never realizing they were sitting in the very space she once dreamed of building. Every wall, every light, every plate, she paid for it, she planned it, she built it. The ones who had ignored her were now celebrating inside the world she created. And she didn't shout. She didn't announce her success with anger or pride. She had served quietly, but now her silence spoke louder than any microphone. Her presence alone was enough. One by one, her relatives looked up at her. Some smiled nervously, others lowered their eyes. She wasn't the girl they once forgot. She was the woman who owned the ground beneath their feet. And in that moment, Chisom felt something deep in her chest. Not revenge, not pain, just a powerful calm. She had no need to prove herself anymore. Her story had already spoken. She finally felt what she had been chasing for years. Not applause, but peace. Not validation, but pride. She had arrived, fully, quietly, completely.